Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Obviously words have meaning and that's why we have a dictionary. Words are not interchangeable because if I use the word he wore shoes versus he wore a hat, it's two different things. If you refer to someone using shoes to walk on the pavement and you change the word shoe with hat, the person who you talk to will not understand what you're talking about, or will understand something else. Now, when people write books, when people work for prestigious media outlets as the BBC that I'm going to use here in my video, you expect those people to be very well trained with the words. And I don't think that BBC is not making sure that people who work for BBC are, at the highest level in linguistics. At least this should be a minimum to be an employee for BBC and write articles for the whole world, if you respect yourself, and I think BBC respects itself. So if you see certain terms used in a wrong way in a BBC article, you cannot assume that it was just sloppiness, because otherwise you would say that the person who wrote the article for the BBC is not really a good linguist. It's not a good, it's not good for BBC. You know what I mean. So we have here an article written by BBC. I can't find the article author, but nevertheless is published by BBC. And whoever wrote this, or how many people, I don't know, were involved in writing this article, let's say the author makes very important mistakes, very grave mistakes. It's like calling England Scotland and Scotland England, or calling Great Britain England, or Great Britain calling it Scotland, which I know is not the same thing, and it's a big difference. So let's see what's going on here. So this article comes, as I said, from BBC News. It is from February 17th, 2023. And it's about NATO. Now, this article will not make mistakes in defining what NATO is, because that's what the whole purpose of this article is, you think. Because it says, what is NATO and how is it helping Ukraine? I will not deal with this part because I don't care about it. We care about what is NATO and how BBC writes this article. And you're going to see a lot of mistakes or purpose confusion using certain words instead of others. So, NATO countries say they are aiming to ramp up supplies of artillery shells and other ammunition to Ukraine and are providing it with heavy weapons such as tanks and missile systems. However, no NATO member has yet agreed to send Ukraine the jet fighters it has been asking for. What is NATO? NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is this is very important, defensive military alliance. Do you remember when NATO bombed Yugoslavia in 1999? Can you tell me what NATO country was attacked? Because it's a defensive alliance. What was the threat? Now, if you tell me that was the policeman, NATO is the policeman of Europe, and intervened over there for whatever they thought necessary, that's a different story. But no, BBC doesn't tell us that. It tells us that it's a defensive alliance. That's the first reality. It was formed in 1945. 49 by 12 members countries, including the US, UK, Canada, and France. See right here? Is the UK is not England. Pay attention to this, please, okay? Or Scotland. So the countries were UK, United Kingdom. It was not England, okay? Members agreed to help one another if they come under attack. Great. If they come under attack, like in 1999. The organization's original goal was to challenge Russian expansion in Europe after World War II. Was such a country called Russia after the World War II? No, that's the answer. So here is the first mistake that I don't think is a mistake, because they tried to make a connection between today's Russia and Soviet Union, which is, as you would say, UK and England, or UK and Scotland, or Ireland, or Wales. So this is, I don't think this is by chance. So the organization's goal, original goal, was to challenge, here should have been USSR, expansion in Europe after World War II. All right, BBC, fire the person who wrote this article. That's his job or her job, the only job. After the Soviet Union's collapse. Now, you see, this is not in the context of this. See, here the NATO organization's goal was to challenge Russia. But here they don't talk about that. They talk after the Soviet Union's collapse. In 1991, many of the Eastern European countries, which used to be Russia's allies, that's incorrect. That is Soviet Union's allies. Okay? Because otherwise I would say England and not United Kingdom. In the Warsaw Pact group were granted NATO membership. Russia has long argued, after 1991, that NATO's acceptance of these countries threatened its security. That's correct. That's correct. It has vehemently opposed Ukraine's request to join the alliance, fearing this would encroach too closely to its territory. So this is it. This is Russia right here. Okay? And here are the former Eastern Bloc countries, including this was part of Yugoslavia here. All right, and you have this is it. So all these countries, Poland, and then you have Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, you know, then Romania, then you have Bulgaria and other weasels here. They joined NATO, and they got closer with their missiles to Russia. So Russia said, well, you're kind of too close, but they didn't care. Now, how are the NATO countries supporting Ukraine? Well, we already know how they do. My point here was, and the story continues, it's just the request for why NATO is not sending troops, and said they're a fear of provoking a direct conflict with Russia. The problem is, and the no-fly zone. The problem is, they're not afraid of Russia. But why should you do something when you can make someone else do it? Why should you, let's say, hurt someone when you can have someone else, get hurt while doing that for you? Have you seen the mafia boss, like the bosses, the big bosses of the mafia? They don't go themselves and take care of business, you know what I mean? Or ask for money and protection or punish whomever. No. They stay in an office, they call people in, or their secretary, they come, sit down or stand up, depending how you want them to be, and you tell them what to do. Or you tell this guy to find someone else, to do something you want done. And that's happening over there. They're bruising one another, they are shooting at one another, and you're here doing something else, enjoying your bourbon, smoke some cigars, a lady over there, a lady over here. You know what I mean? This is what's going on here. So I just wanted to point out just to how this author of NATO makes this mistake. And this reminds me of a friend of mine. His name is Jamie. Jamie or Mark. One of these guys told me in 1997 or 1998. One of these guys, I can't remember which one. They said they were both English, not British, they were English. And one of them told me that, explaining to me what's the difference between England and Britain at one point, and Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, and Wales, Scotland. One of them said, well, when Great Britain is doing something good, we say that England did it. England did something good. When Great Britain did something bad, we say Great Britain did something bad. So when Soviet Union did something that these guys want to throw everything on Soviet Union, they call it Russia. When Soviet Union does something good, we call it Soviet Union. When we call Soviet Union as being, Russian, we forget that in charge of Russia were the biggest criminals in Russia were not Russians. That's a fact. Stalin was not a Russian. Stalin was a Gruzin. He was a Georgian, like Saakashvili. Lenin, according to many, had this much Russian blood in him. Trotsky, not a Russian. Kaganovich, not a Russian. Yogoda, not a Russian. And many others. Okay? Yes, the idiot Gorbachev was a Russian. All right, so words have meanings or meaning. That's why we have dictionaries. We have synonyms as well, but not even a synonym was used here between Russia and Soviet Union. It's like England and Great Britain, kind of, you know what I mean? Yes. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.